Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second part of episode 2 of Mysteries of Ravensburg Academy. This is a gothic horror sort of mini-series, so just warnings for blood, gore, violence, body horror, and other such things. If anything comes up to a line for you, please take a break. Your support means a lot to us, but so does your mental health. So the last time we left off, the party had discovered that their roommate had been murdered over spring break. It was unknown who did it. They did some poking around and found some potential suspects. One being Snarl Darkon, a werewolf that was picking on him constantly, and the other being Logan Zilch, a zombie senior who is working in the artifact lab on a project around musical instruments of the valley. It was discovered that the flute was missing when they went investigating the artifact lab. They also found that Tiberius, their roommate, had been hanging out with a Triton named Lou Kelp, who stayed in an abandoned greenhouse. They managed to break into the greenhouse and found pieces of Tiberius's journal. The word slipped my mind. He wrote down his experiences with discovery that the flute might be the property of the Pied Piper, a fae creature, and the fae want the flute back. It was mentioned that a sprite was found in the greenhouse snooping around, and the two of them killed it and interrogated it and found that the fae might be invading the valley through a moon gate somewhere in the dark forest. Additionally, Lou believes that the fae are after him and hid the flute somewhere in the school, underneath of which were a bunch of strange words like fish, mermaid, wizard, and other such things that were crossed out. Fish was the only one that was circled. Afterwards, they went to the headmistress of the school, Headmistress Thalassa, and presented the evidence that they had found, and she had presented an arrow that was the arrow that killed Tiberius. There was then a kerfuffle, and some student came in and announced to Thalassa that a student had been shot with a golden arrow. And this is where we pick up as you all head outside to see, indeed, Lou Kelp laying in the middle of the cobblestone street with a golden arrow through his neck. The crowd is standing around him, staring at his body, not really doing anything as the headmistress storms out with you all in tow. What would you all like to do?
I immediately try to make my way to the front of the crowd to see Lou with my own eyes.
Yeah, it does take a bit of pushing, but you do manage to get to the front of the crowd where you do see him laying. It appears that he was shot from the side as the arrow goes through his neck from the right side of his body out the left side, and he's actually laying on his left side in a pose that clearly he was shot mid walking. Um, and everybody is standing around, um, just trying to figure out who did it. There are a few other professors that are kind of beginning to approach, as Ismelda turns to the crowd and just says, "Everyone, back to your dorms immediately." And she's going to raise her hand, and you watch as a ring glows on it.
Hmm.
And she says, "Effective immediately, the campus is put on a temporary lockdown. All conjuration classes are canceled, and all unnecessary travel is highly prohibited. Only travel to your dorms, to food dispensaries, and to classes. Staff, we will have an immediate meeting, and there will be another assembly at 9:45 tomorrow." And this echoes across the campus as you realize the ring was how she makes her announcements.
Hmm.
And she turns to you. Do you all have any idea of who might have done this? It clearly wasn't the sprite that you all had found. The arrow is much too large.
Right.
The arrow is
Um,
larger than the one that was used to kill our roommate.
They're about the same size, but there are arrows that were clearly shot by a human-sized or a person-sized person, not a tiny little foot-tall fey creature.
right.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about this in front of Lou. I didn't really know him, but can we go somewhere else to talk about it? We found this one very suspicious guy. We'd like to share with you.
All right. And she turns to some of the professors. Get someone to take the body away. We'll go back to the office. It's probably the safest place. And she marches you back into her office.
I whisper to my buddy here, and hey, do you think you can trust her while we walk back?
I think we should stay weary. She hasn't done anything that make us not trust her, but she seems kind of like, has all the information, so she would be, you know, easiest to deceive us.
Yeah,
What about you? Do you think that she's trustworthy?
I don't know. I feel like the teachers here, the adults, are a bit there's something that they're not telling us.
Okay. Well,
Um,
let's keep an eye out, but we should still tell her what we know,
okay,
just in case.
yeah,
'Cause I don't think it's like super secret.
yeah. Is it okay if I let you lead this? If you tell her about Logan and his weird archive on the flute, maybe?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so we just wanted to tell you that the flute that they were looking at, um, not only has it gone missing, but he was fighting, Tiberius was fighting with Logan about this flute and the importance of it. So you think that that has something to do with the arrows being shot?
I see, she says, shutting the door to her office. She actually goes and shuts the curtains to the window at the back of her office and sits down at her desk. The arrow still sitting on the desk. She actually takes a moment and opens the drawer and puts the arrow back in the drawer. We
Before
will
she
definitely.
I go to like inspect her, walk around and inspect her, I guess what do you call it in English? Sorry, brain fart. Her shelves, books, whatever she has lying around while you guys are talking.
Sure, if you'd like to
Uh,
make an investigation check, and we'll continue with
yeah.
what Goliath was saying.
Uh, uh, I am at 11.
So on her shelves are mostly books, just like history of the valley, history of Tritons, history of werewolves, history of, all of that stuff, as well
Yeah.
as trinkets like sea glass and conch shells and seashells and um, ships and bottles and other things that would interest her as a Triton. Um, she does have a few books on like transmutation and transmutation magic, just because she is a transmutation wizard. But other than that, you don't see anything suspicious. Um,
Yeah. I hang back while you guys
Okay.
talk.
Before she puts the arrow into her desk, did we notice anything about the arrow?
uh,
Um, that would have like resonated with the other arrow. So did it react in any way?
um, so you didn't get the arrow out of Lou's body. You didn't get close
Yeah.
enough to like just pull it out of the body or anything like that. And
Hmm.
um, but the
Some
arrows
vulgar.
they're probably not exactly the same, but they're clearly from the same archer. They were solid gold. They had that slightly fey-like aura glowing off of them. They were carved to look like vines and leaves were, wrapping up them. The fletching was made out of the same gold that the shaft was made out of and the tip was made out of. So they're very clearly at least from the same archer.
Okay, so we'll let her continue her little spiel that she's about to do because she just closed all the curtains, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what's going on? What do you know?
Seeming as how you're all wrapped up in this, it would be somewhat unfair to not reveal that kind of information. And she opens her drawer, another drawer, and takes out another sheet of paper and lays it on the table and slides it over to you. It is a hostage style, all the letters were cut out of books or newspapers sort of setup. And it says, "The valley's days are numbered." And it's signed once again in the same sort of lettering cut from books, the Candelabra Society.
Hmm.
There is also a
Uh,
little hole at the top that is kind of an odd shape, and the paper kind of bends. It's probably a nail of some kind that was driven through the paper. Um, and she just slides that paper over. I don't know if you heard of any rumblings or rumors about a candelabra society.
um, can I do while I listen to this? Can I do like some sort of check? I guess it would be like a history check or something.
Yeah, you can do a
If I
history
had ever
check.
heard of it before.
You can do a history check. You both can do a history check if you want to.
If it's history, is that the relevant one for this?
I would say yes, history would be relevant to what the Candelabra Society is.
I got a
Um,
20.
wow, I'm also very good today. I got a 17 that's then rounded down to
Oh, with your -1.
16. Yeah.
Um, so I would actually say that Adam, you might have heard bits and pieces about a Candelabra Society that existed quite a long time ago, but Goliath, you were definitely paying attention in history classes. When they talked about um, Victor Ravensburg, he had a wife named Dahlia Ravensburg. And during the formation of the valley, they had no royalty, they had no nobles, they had nothing. They basically whipped this valley out of the shadows of the Shadowfell. And in order to train up essentially the new nobility, different monsters were all handpicked and went through a kind of cotillion process called the Candelabra Society. Dahlia later, about 200 or so years later, ended up going insane and being locked somewhere in her summer home, somewhere in the wastelands, that then disappeared into the mists. Historians call it the House of Blood. And the Candelabra Society was dissolved, as they had basically already picked the nobles and determined, well, we have nobles, we have a bloodline now that is going to get the nobility is going to be passed down. Even if the nobility doesn't quite have the same power these days, there's still people who definitely come from nobility. But you've heard nothing about the Candelabra Society as in recent years. You've heard nothing about it being reinstated or reformed or anything like that. This was all ancient history thousands of years ago with the formation of the Candelabra Society. So this is bizarre to say the least.
So, okay, so I asked the Candelabra Society. I thought that's old history. We haven't heard about that in a very long time. We learn about it in our history books. What would they have anything to do with this?
We believe that it is a political movement of some kind that is using that as a way to harken back to the beginning of the valley. We are not sure what exactly their goals are. It is possible that they are some sort of conservative political organization that may not like the modern ways of the valley, um, or something of the like. We are unsure. But this was nailed to the door of my office 3 or 4 weeks ago.
So before Tiberius was ever
Yeah,
involved.
Yes, before Tiberius was involved, this was nailed to my door. But since there was no activity of any political nature on campus, or at least none that would result in something like this, I deemed it a harmless prank until Tiberius was killed in such an odd way. Um, it is possible the Fae are involved, or the Fae might be something they're using as a pawn. We simply do not know.
So the note it's cut out of different books, right?
Yes.
Is can I do an investigation roll to see, if we can recognize like where the like letters came from like which books or something
I
like
would
that?
say no, because they're all
No, it doesn't
singular
matter.
letters cut out. The
Okay.
only thing that you would be able to notice from that was the quality of the ink and the quality of the paper, and kind of determine whether it was cheap books that this was all cut from, expensive books, a mixture, medium range books. You probably wouldn't be able to identify what specific book it came from.
Okay.
It's just all innocuous letters, probably cut out from middle of chapters of books, not from beginnings, not from headlines, or anything like
Hmm.
that that might be recognizable.
Okay. Hmm. So
Um,
what do you want to do?
I
A
want to
whisper.
ask, who else have you talked to anyone else about this note?
There are a few professors that I have spoken with, particularly professors that were going to stay over spring break. Um, but other than that, no one else.
What did they make of it?
Like me, they also believed it to be a harmless prank, but agreed that keeping an eye on the student population and the goings-on of clubs, particularly ones that are more politically affiliated, especially since we already had a disaster with one of them earlier this year.
Oh,
Um, you would all remember this was when the professor Adela Carmichael, who ran the Temperance Society, ended up literally disappearing off the face of the planet, and the club was forcibly disbanded. The Temperance Society was forcibly disbanded. Neither of you would probably have had her as a professor. She was the professor of geometry for ritual casters. So neither of you would probably have taken any of her classes. She was kind of known as a very strict and, yes, conservative professor who spouted about how vampires should only drink and never eat, and that vampires eating is kind of an affront to nature. There was a little bit of, not quite direct, but like awkward, sort of, you didn't really mean to say that, but it kind of hurt werewolves kind of statements of like comparing eating to being barbaric and other things like that, and kind of just that sort of stuff. She worked there for quite a while. People didn't really like her. She was kind of the one professor that sat alone all the time because none of the other professors really wanted to associate with her.
very
But then she
vampiric
just
of her.
up and vanished, and the society was forcibly disbanded. It was not a secret that the administration was like, there will be no meetings of the Temperance Society. And the flyers they disseminated were taken down, the pamphlets were confiscated and shredded. Um, so it was very clearly a firing or a quitting of some kind, at least to your knowledge.
But what do you
But
say?
she,
It would but it came off as a mysterious disappearance. No, or was it like just
It
one
was a
day she wasn't?
mysterious disappearance. A lot of people believe that she was fired and just left in the middle of the night, not basically just not leaving anything behind. Um, but other than that, there's been no big political activity on campus.
and did we, did you guys find anything why she disappeared? Or was
We
there
are
any
not at
information?
liberty to say about her unemployment.
Okay. Is she,
Off game. Just a brain fart moment. Are we talking to Thalassa now? Or like, who are we talking to? Sorry, I got
Yes, you are still talking to Ismelda Thalassa. You're still in her
Ismelda
office.
Thalassa.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, good. Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It's been a week. Um, so yeah, that seems to be
hmm,
where you all are at with the knowledge of politics on campus.
okay.
Um, I sort of um I sort of go over and whisper to you again and be like, so like, should we, you know, Logan, should we? What do you think?
Well, we kind of already told her that Logan was searching with him about
Yeah,
the
I know,
flute. Yeah.
I know.
And she didn't really seem that interested in his name. Can you tell us anything about Logan Zilch? Have you seen him? Have you seen him on campus? Have you heard where he is? Because he might know something about the flute that we don't.
I don't know of his personal movements, although I have heard of him. He is a very accomplished historical preservation major. Um, but as far as I'm aware, he simply keeps to himself. Uh, if anything, I would definitely check the artifact lab if you haven't already. He might be there. There's a possibility that he's in the library. Uh, but other than that, I don't know all of the movements of all of the students on this campus.
He's not reported missing, is what you're saying.
As far as I'm aware, no. There has been no reported missing students.
Okay. So I whisper, um, do you think that we have everything that we need from her? Or is she willing? Is there any other questions that
Uh,
you,
I mean, bro, we could totally get out of this the lockdown, don't you think? Do you think you can give us a pass for like being detectives or something?
yeah, maybe she'll work with us to see where this flute is or why this is happening. So we can move freely as a school. So let's ask her that.
Yeah. Hey, Professor Thalassa, seeing how we are basically working together with you to solve this mystery of Ravensburg Castle, do you think maybe we can get like a hall pass to get out of this mandatory lockdown you've got going on?
Unfortunately, no, the lockdown is for the safety of the students. And seeing as how you are students, I can't simply give you a free pass. You are obligated to remain under this lockdown, as are the professors and myself.
But
Okay.
found how are we going to find how are you going to solve anything if we're not allowed to go out and get our clues?
Well, you won't be finding clues. We, the administration, will be finding clues. Our priority is your safety, and putting you on the case, so to speak, would be endangering you.
Can I do a persuasion throw to persuade her that we can handle ourselves and that it'd be more advantageous to use us than keep us locked up since we kind of have more freedom within the staff. Like we'll have less eyes on us.
You know what? Sure, make me a persuasion check.
Okay. 7.
Unfortunately, no. This is for the safety of the students.
Oh, I'm so sorry. 13.
13,
Yeah.
it was going to be a hard roll to
Right.
pass.
Okay.
Same thing. It was going to be a
Yeah.
really hard roll to pass.
Okay. Okay. So I don't think that we can get anything else out of her.
Uh,
But we should just tell her that we're gonna head back to our rooms now
yeah.
and try to.
Professor, thank you so much for going through this with us. And I know it's a lot to ask, but please keep us in the loop of on Tiberius. We really miss him, and yeah, it's super weird.
I will give you the information that we deem appropriate to give you as his roommates. However, for your safety, we will not be providing everything. Some of the information will be only for the administration and other authorities that we may need to call. So please keep that in mind. And please try and be safe.
Right.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So
So
we leave, right?
yeah,
Yes,
we
she opens the door
Yeah.
to her office and allows you to leave. The office is empty. There are no students in this office. There's only the people that are working at filing papers for student services. And you leave the building to empty cobblestone streets. It seems most people are
What
taking
time is
this
it
lockdown
now?
seriously. Um, I would say that it's probably at this point, probably around just with the conversation that you had, probably 2 in the afternoon.
And 2 in the afternoon here, what does that look like? Because my
Uh,
imagination goes either, California type high school setting, but I know we are in like Gothic, sort of
yeah, so
Oxford.
it's cloudy all the time.
Mhm.
There is never a blue sky. There's never a sunny day, so to speak. It's gray clouds. Um, and so once again, gray clouds. Not as much light as it was several hours earlier, but definitely brighter than it will be in several hours. There is still a day-night cycle, but the sky is just constantly covered in clouds.
so the courtyard that we're in, this is where Lou got shot, right?
Yes.
Right outside.
Um, and the body has been removed by somebody. You do probably still see a bit of red on the cobblestone where he lay and began to bleed out a little bit. Uh, but other than that, the body has been completely moved.
So he was bleeding out from his neck, right?
Yes.
Can we tell the direction from which the arrow was shot and try to see
Oh, that's clever. Yeah.
if there's anything we
Goliath, you're
could
such a
like.
clever guy, man. I don't get why you you should have been to that class with Adela Carmichael, man. You'd fit
You,
right in.
we all have our preferences. Sometimes you just need a little oomph to get your juices flowing.
I guess Tiberius
Unfortunately,
really
that's
did.
an arrow in our friend's neck.
Yeah,
So if
Okay.
yeah.
you would like, you can make a perception check.
Okay. 5.
But can I try to, I'm not good at it, but I'll try to do it too, like because
Sure, you can do a
I
perception
think
check.
Goliath is super cool. Like I want to be a detective too. Um, Okay. I performatively like sort of do the same thing as him while looking up and manage to roll 17 minus 1, I guess, right?
Perception, I believe, is wisdom.
I'm good at perception. I have +3 to perception, so that's 20.
Oh, wow. So kind of
I have it as
remembering.
I don't understand how this works. I'm new, but I on my app I have like a little dot at it. Doesn't it mean it's,
Oh, yes, that means that you are proficient in it, which
proficient?
means
Yeah.
you've gotten your proficiency bonus on top of your wisdom modifier. So you're
Yeah.
better at it than most people. So with rolling a dirty 20, somehow, even though you do not have a brain, the pieces are starting to fit together. There, he was walking, um, Luke Help was walking towards the nurse's office, the sort of little hospital area that they have. Um, and he was shot through the right side of his body. The tip of the arrow came out the left, and it was a sort of relatively high angle that he was shot from. So as you kind of look up at the castle, you see there's this one particular battlement that it looks like someone could have been standing in and shot at and shot out from between these two towers that sort of come up with that battlement. It would be very easy to hide in there, but it is completely empty now.
Can I
Uh,
I want to fly up there and see if I can see anything.
Do you have a fly speed?
Mm, where would I find that?
It would probably be under where your speed is, where it says like, 35, 30 feet or 20 feet or whatever. It might tell you if you, I don't
Uh,
believe you have a fly speed because while you are a gargoyle that probably has wings, you don't have a fly speed. Um,
okay.
so you'd have to go into the castle and walk up to that place
Hmm.
to find
Whatever's
that.
there.
And there's no guarantee that there's easy roof access to that. It
that's
could be
but
just,
but I want to be a rogue detective now. Let's go do that. Like yeah, hey man, let's he must have obviously, you know,
Yeah, maybe
I
we could
try to
find
use like
somewhere.
sports metaphors, like so like he would have had to been there to be hit by the I like map it out with my hands real visual like so you can understand it because that's how I understand it with my lack of brain. So we should, you know, let's go up there, Goliath. And you
Yeah,
can't fly even though you have those beautiful wings, but like
so,
gargoyles live on the roof, so you must know how to get up to a roof, right?
yeah, I'm pretty good at those.
Okay.
Roofs are my shiz. Um, yeah, so we want to try to head up there.
all right. This is going to be a weird roll, but make me a survival check because survival is about being able to track and find your way to things. So just being able to look at the building and go, okay, we might need to take this flight of stairs or that flight of stairs or whatever. Make me a survival check.
Can I
Um,
also try to be like, can we be stealthy about it? Because like we're not supposed to be outside right now. We're supposed to head right back to our dorms, correct?
Relatively, yeah.
Okay,
All
well
non-essential
let's
travel is prohibited, but
okay.
okay,
So
for
it's
survival, I got 24.
okay.
good. I did not get 24, so let's go with that.
Yeah, so you all, since you know about roofs and how roofs connect to things and just looking at where this is, you figure out your way up there. It is a bit of a circuitous route because roof access isn't easy, and you do end up walking over a roof, like a section of roof, and kind of picking your way over to it. You get there. It's very easy to spot these because they are bright green, but they are like a summer, like an oak tree in the middle of summer, green leaves with a slight aura to them. Once again, like the arrows that are laying on the ground right where you believe that the whoever it was that shot Luke Kelp was kneeling or standing or something. These are very obviously not from the valley themselves. They're too green. And they do have that slight fey glow that the arrows do.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I want to pick those up.
All right. So, yep, you pick them up. They're certainly oak leaves, but just slightly magical.
Okay. Can I
Do they
I want to put a couple in my pocket
Yep.
just in case.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Can I this sounds stupid, but would Goliath know, like would he have the biology to smell things or taste things or do any such things? Like is that senses a guy like you would have?
I'm going to rule yes. You can smell and taste, even though you don't need to smell and taste really.
Okay.
Okay. And
Hmm.
and we're like it's plainly available to us. So it's just like slightly magical, but like they are
Yeah, I
fey.
mean they're glowing a
Mhm.
little bit. So they're definitely kind of somewhat unnatural.
Okay. Can I try to from that position do like another sort of like triangulate it in a certain way, do perception or investigative CSI style stuff while I'm pretending to be the best detective there was?
So what end goal are you trying to get to with this
I'm trying to
investigation?
see where the person would have headed off to see if there
Sure,
was
you
be
can make me an investigation check.
wouldn't that make sense? Just
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
any footsteps or whatever.
Mm.
Okay. And I'm at a 3.
You see like a boot print in the dust, but then you try
Aha!
and look at it and you don't see any boot prints anywhere else around it. It's just the
Okay.
single boot print.
The person must have worn one boot. There's only one boot print. One boot, one foot, or
What is
be
the
peg-legged.
what is the print in? So
Just
like,
in
is it
like
in dirt?
it's kind of in like stone dust and other debris that is kind of blown through, that just naturally ends up on
And
roofs like
what's
pollen and things like that.
yeah, what size is the shoe?
Uh,
Is it of a
human
smaller person
sized.
or human? Okay. Okay. Hmm. Well, we found the leaves and we found the footprint,
But only one foot.
but they
That's
could have only
suspicious.
been, only been standing in part of the debris on the like only the right foot
So
was
they're
in it.
trying to throw us off, is what you're saying.
No, maybe they just the dirt wasn't evenly placed on the ground.
So they placed the dirt before he
No, the
made the
dirt was already
shot.
on there. The dirt was already on there. He was just one footprint. But we
Oh,
should, definitely keep that in mind that
all
there is
right. You're
only
so
one.
clever. You're so clever.
If
Okay,
there's any
okay.
one-legged Fey type creatures
I-
hopping
I'll
around.
I'll I'll keep an eye out. Okay. Like but you're the clever one. What should we what kind of thing should we look for up here? It's obviously
Well, we
like
found a leaf and a footprint. I think that just indicates that somebody was in fact up here. And you would think that, a Fey creature would be able to fly, but
but why would they
this
yeah, why would
person
they
was
then
obviously, was on the ground, and I mean they made it up here somehow. So either they had access to the school roof or they flew
mm-hmm.
up here.
Okay. Somehow I have a notebook in my pocket. I pull it out and write down access to school roof. And also I do this in my off-game real note app on my computer to keep track of this.
Okay, so other than, this area, because you investigated, you only found a footprint, and we found some, glowy leaves. Um, maybe we should go investigate Temperance's office. She's the school teacher who mysteriously disappeared. You
Wasn't
know,
it wasn't it Adela who was
It was
part
Adela
of,
Carmichael who ran the Temperance Society.
yeah. Okay.
which is now banned, correct?
Which is now
Temperance banned.
Yes, it was forcibly disbanded, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, would we know if they where they if they their club room or whatever you call it would still be would just be locked off, or would be taken over by like the math club or something? Would we know that sort of
So
thing?
most professors, their offices are their classrooms. They don't get like a special extra office. They have their classroom and then they have their office hours in their classroom. Um, you would know that there are not a lot of classrooms just because of the structure of the castle and how many buildings they would have had to build in order for everybody to have their own classroom.
Right.
So it was most likely taken over by another professor with another subject, or you don't remember them announcing a hiring of a new professor for geometry for ritual casters. Um, but they might have hired somebody and they took over her old classroom. Um, so her classroom is most likely in use. Her personal artifacts were most likely removed, if not removed by her, removed by somebody else. Um, so
Yeah.
going to the
And this is
classroom
common
wouldn't.
knowledge. Common
It's just, yeah,
knowledge.
it's common knowledge because there aren't a lot of classrooms, just because of the way the castle is structured and the way that some of these classes need specific types of rooms for that, and the expense of building other additional outbuildings, because most of these buildings were already around when Victor Ravensburg opened the school. They were just filled with something else. Um,
And you wouldn't want to
so
ruin the mood with like another architectural style off campus or right next to it, right? That'd be
something along those lines, but also it is expensive to build buildings because they don't have like modern construction techniques. They are still the old school ones. So it would take 10 years to build a new building.
Mhm.
So they just have a limited number of classrooms.
Also, the House of Blood was mentioned. Do we
Mhm.
know, like, is it no knowledge where the House of Blood is, since it's kind of like
It
hidden?
is not known where the House of Blood is, because it vanished
Mm.
into the mist. They know that it was in the wastelands. Um, they know it was a summer home that was built for uh, Dahlia Ravensburg. However, it vanished into the mist. The mists rolled over and it vanished. No one knows where it is. The only thing that we know is that Dahlia is locked in there, and she went insane.
Okay. And I need you sent us this before, and but also just for people watching us, the Wastelands is another realm or just like another part of of
It's
the
another
valley.
geographic. It's a geographic region of the valley to the north,
Hmm.
where the undead roam. It's where the undead kind of come from, um, as opposed to other sections of the valley, like the forests in the south, or the fetid swamp, or Hexenhold, or the Nocturne Confederation, or other places like that. It's a specific geographic region of the valley.
Okay. Oh,
Mhm. Okay, because I was thinking that we could invest, like, since that that house is basically the end of that society, the Candelabra Society.
I
Yeah,
will
that still
also
has
say the
ground for
valley
his.
is very big. This isn't like a thing you can walk to in the afternoon or anything like that. This is like probably a day carriage ride to the north is about what time it'll take to get to just to get to the
Wasteland.
wastelands as opposed to explore it to try and find this thing.
Okay.
Because Ravensburg Academy is kind of in the center of the valley, and then there's the dark forest surrounding it, which is several miles in all directions. And then you get to the other places like the Fetid Swamp and Hexenhold and the forests in the south and the Nocturne Confederation and, places like that. Which then, of course, have several miles before you get to the edge of the valley itself. So it takes probably several days to cross the valley from farthest point to farthest point.
Okay. Okay, well, what we could do, I mean, the school's on lockdown, so that means that Logan should be back in his room. I mean, everybody should be
Right.
back in their room, right? So we don't need to go search for Logan. We can just go to his room. And that way, if any teacher or anybody sees us, we can just tell them that we're going back to our rooms.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, that sounds. I want to go see Logan and hear what he has to say for himself because
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't see him around um, while Lou got shot.
yeah. He's
He
been
could have
kind
been
of
on the
missing
roof, couldn't he?
all day.
But he has two legs, though.
Well, he could be hopping on one to throw
He
us off.
could.
So yeah, we want to head to Logan's room.
So you have no idea which
Wait,
of the
okay.
many houses in the student village are Logan's. It's not like they have the names of the students on the doors or anything. So you would need to find somebody and ask them what room or what house Logan lived in, ask for the address, basically, to find him.
Oh yeah, and we already like the people from his artifact study group there. They already know us now, so we can't even make them tell us.
Yeah, and they're probably back in their room too now, since everything was, on lockdown.
Right.
So
Um,
maybe there's somebody that we can talk to in the office that way we can persuade to, into telling us.
I mean, we do know that their professor, Shashat Fayek, right? The mummy
Mhm.
lady, the madam. She liked to be called madam, I remember.
So she's the
We,
student manager of the artifacts lab.
yeah, she could maybe she'd be willing to tell us.
Yeah, yeah, let's go back to the artifacts lab. Maybe we can come up with some excuse as to why we're out.
Right. Yeah, let's go. I
All
agree.
right.
Yeah.
So you head back into the dungeons of the castle and you find your way to the artifact lab, which is locked.
Nope. I knock.
Yeah, you do hear kind of a jingling as someone comes over to the door, and you hear the door unlock, and opening it is Seshat Fayek. I'm sorry. I thought the students were on lockdown. What are you doing here?
We want to make sure that everyone's getting home safe. Like the people like Aspen and Constance, like they didn't they seem like they might want to, yeah, we want to walk them home.
They have already left. They
Okay.
left when the announcement was made.
What about Logan?
Logan has not checked into the lab today, at
Can we go
least.
check on him before we head back? I'm really worried about him.
If you would like to make a persuasion check, you may.
For sure. And I'm pretty persuasive. No, yeah, a bit persuasive. I have +1. Um, which gives me 10. 10 persuasion. And if I
Um,
wink a bit, does that make it to 11, maybe?
no, it does not. Um,
What if I use this eye?
no, sadly, it,
Okay,
it, it does not either. I'm
rude.
sorry. I'm sure he is fine. He is a very responsible young man, if brusque and annoying and abrasive. But I'm sure he is either home safe or at the library or something of that, and is safe.
The library, I thought that all students needed to go back to their room.
Necessary travel only, and some students require books from the library. And we have a staff member, Silas, the librarian, who is supervising them.
Okay. Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, we need to do our homework too, even though but we can only, yeah, we should go to the library too. Good call. Thanks, madam.
Of course. And she just shuts the door to the lab.
Okay. So it sounds like even with this lockdown, people are still able to get out and move about if they want to go to the library. So maybe we should head there and see if there's anything that we can do or find.
I agree, for sure. Also, like, so they let people go read their geeky little books, but they won't let us investigate murder. That's priorities, man.
Well, maybe if it was a class, they would let us.
Right.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
we
Well,
need to
let's.
find a professor to sponsor us for Detective Club.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So let's head to the library. Maybe we can find the professor there too.
All
hmm
right. So you head to the library. It is definitely open. The doors are shut, and it's a separate little building with a sort of round tower. It's about 2 stories. It's not the biggest library, but it probably holds all the books that a student would need. Um, you do enter the library through the lovely double wooden doors and find the very familiar werewolf Silas, who runs the library. His hair is kind of pulled back into 2 points that kind of curl a little bit behind his head. That's kind of just how he styles his hair. Um, and he is currently leafing through the Rolodex on his desk underneath a beautiful stained glass lamp, as he's taking out cards and just checking off things on a checklist of some kind. And he looks up and just nods at you and goes back to his work. There are a few students in the library. Um, they are all just quietly reading books or scratching at paper with their quills, very obviously doing work of some kind.
So, how do you want to play this, Goliath?
Hmm. Well, how many students are in the library? Can we see, like, how large is this library? Can we see everything as we walk in, or is it something that we need to explore to see, you know, how many
Um,
students are there?
I mean, it is a relatively mid-sized library. There is a working space with a bunch of tables in the middle of the room, where there is um, sort of not quite a skylight. I don't know what you call those, like spaces where the floor isn't on like a higher level, where there's that shaft that goes down it.
Yeah.
There's that on the second floor where there's a banister and you can look over. It's almost like a gallery with books along the side. But that central area has a lot of tables and a lot of like writing desks and full-on tables and things like that, just in the center of the library. But then there are bookshelves that go on for a little bit more. Um, then there are some like reading nooks, and you would know there's a section of the library where certain reference books that just literally cannot be taken out of the library are read. There are these
And
little
I would know
almost,
this.
well, it's obvious to see. Um, there are, sorry, there's dust all over my it's obvious to see there's these little like five little cubby holes essentially with locked doors that you get locked into so that you don't take the reference book and like leave the library with it. You have to give it back in order to get let out. And you have about five of those behind the desk as well as a storage area that you can very clearly see. Um, and then there's the rest of the library that I just described to you. And there is about five students sitting in the library.
I want to ask the librarian if he's seen or if he knows if Logan has been seen around in the library or just in general today.
Yes, are you wanting to speak with him? He's actually right over there. And he points to a zombie in the on the far corner of the sort of work area at a table by himself with a stack of books that he's kind of flipping through. Um, and you do see, yep, he is a zombie.
Okay. Yeah, we just needed to talk to him about a couple things regarding a couple classes that we have. So thank you for pointing him out.
Of course. And he goes back to checking off things on his little Rolodex and shifting books and putting cards back into them and doing like library things.
Love library things. Okay, we should go talk to him.
Yeah, and do you want me to come along, or do you want to handle it solo? To do good cop, bad cop? What do you think?
Maybe just so he knows that, we're not together. Maybe if I kind of like screw up, then you can get some information out of him.
Right.
You know,
Okay. So I'll go find a book about um brains.
no, you should try to go find books about the Candelabra Society.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
See if
right.
they have anything on them or yeah, or the House of Blood. Either of
Okay.
those might be good, or the Moon Gate, because
I
that's
pick up my little
where the
notebook again and write these things down as he's
yeah.
saying it so I can remember.
Mhm.
And then okay, so Candelabra, House of Blood, Moon,
Moon Gate. That's
Moon Gate.
apparently where they're coming from in the forest.
Okay.
So, even if we don't know why, we can figure out like where they're coming from.
Yeah. So while you go through that, I go to Silas to have him help me find these things. I don't know if we need to role play this, but uh,
He gives you, I'll just say that he definitely just gives you a few sections that you can look for these things in, as well as a few recommendations of like certain books that are just like history of historical societies or um moon gates and other garden oddities for decoration or just books like that. He actually gives you like the little like almost Dewey Decimal System number. It's not called Dewey Decimal System, but I haven't
right.
sat and planned out what it would be called. So yeah, you get the
Devil
Dewey
Dewey
Decimal number.
decimals. Yeah.
Sure, the Devil Dewey system, and gives you the Dewey Decimal numbers for them and kind of points you in a general direction and just lets you go on your own. Um, if you want to make an investigation check with advantage because you do have the Dewey Decimal numbers with you of books, you can, but while you're doing that, we'll move to Goliath. And
Okay.
how do you approach Logan?
So, a little cautiously, I want to take note of the stack of books that he's looking at, just kind of the titles of them, see if there's anything fishy going on, what he's like looking at before I get over there.
It's mostly just books on the usage of musical instruments in ancient cultures.
Okay.
Um, it's mostly just that.
Okay. So how he's a dick. He's not very nice, so I feel like, me being a freshman, he's gonna be Mm. So how it so okay, so I'm gonna walk up to him. Um, give me a second.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, I can tell you that I rolled a 20 on my investigation check. I also
Okay.
rolled what adds up to a 5, but a real 20. So I guess I find a very good book, maybe. Let's see.
So you got a 5
I got a
or
5, and then I got a what adds it becomes a 19, but I rolled a 20.
okay, right, with advantage. Okay, so you got a
Yeah.
19. Yeah, you find the books that he recommended to you. Um, and I will allow you to just sit and read them or flip through them quickly while we go back to Logan. Um,
On my way over there, I'm gonna grab a couple books, and I just wanna ask Logan if I can sit on the table across from him, and if you mind if I just study there for a second.
he kind of just goes, sure, as he continues flipping through his book.
Okay. I kind of want to make small talk. Be like, hey, have you heard about like what's going on in the school? Like golden arrows, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, it certainly is.
Do you, what do you think's going on? It's kind of mysterious, right?
Look, I don't know what you're trying to get at, but that's not really a concern right now. I'm just trying to get my senior year done.
I'm not trying to get at anything. We're just kind of going through the same thing. It's kind of crazy that a couple students have died, in the past couple days, and then one of them has a golden arrow shot through his neck. But isn't that weird? You don't think
Not
so?
really. When you study things like pyromancy and conjuration, students die here all the time. It's kind of
Yeah,
par
but
for the course when you study those
the whole
things
school's not shut down for that.
because, well, because they know what happened. It happened in front of a professor most of the time.
Hmm. Well, honestly, Logan, I'm not here to study.
No shit.
I know that you study like historical musical instruments, right?
Yes, I do.
So my friend, I know he was kind of searching for this. He had this flute always, or he like notes about his flute in his room or in our room, and I think that it might be connected somehow with these killings.
Oh, you're Tiberius's roommates.
He, yes, yes, I
Look,
am.
he was overzealous and annoying. Didn't want him to die, just wanted him off the project. He didn't need to be there. I didn't
Why?
need him on the project. He didn't need to be on the project. I'm sure once he reached his senior year, he could have done his own project. Everything would have been hunky dory, but no. I had to take him on. I was annoyed. So, yeah, I may have blown up at him a few times.
And when's the last time that you saw him?
Last Thursday, when we had our argument and he went home early,
What was the argument about?
he was once again bringing up the theory that that flute is a magical item and it's incredibly powerful and it's incredibly dangerous and all of this other stuff. And it's, look, not every single musical instrument that comes out of a dingy old castle is of historic value beyond what the instrument's construction was. Sometimes these instruments are just informative as to how music was played, what type of music was played. So they have value, But not every single one of them is an incredibly powerful artifact. You're not likely to get that on your first project. They wouldn't want you taking care of the sword that killed the first werewolf king. Like, you're not going to be studying that on your senior project. That's for people that have been in historical preservation for 30, 40 years.
So, but did you notice anything about the flute? And
Aside
I
from the
mean,
fact that half of it was crystal, not really.
it didn't have the same feeling as, and I pull one of the leaves out of my pocket, kind of like this leaf.
No, what even is that? And he kind of stares at it. No, it
It's
was just a wood flute where half of it was crystal. It wasn't anything special.
well, do you know where it is? We've already
It
checked
sh
the artifact room, and it seems to have gone missing from the lot that's under your name.
Wait, it's missing?
Yeah, it's been gone. And the last time anybody saw it was Thursday when you guys fought. And um, since you were the last one with it, since you know Tiberius left early, you should be the last one to know where it is.
Yes, because I put it back in the box, locked the box, put it back in my lot, and locked the lot. That was the last time I saw the flute, which means sometime between when you discovered it was missing and when I locked up the lot, somebody else tampered with the lot. Putting the clues together, it was probably Tiberius.
Hmm. That would be one conclusion,
It's probably the
but
only conclusion.
it would be awfully easy to can't think of the word to frame somebody who can't speak for themselves, especially after you two got into a fight. And from what I've learned, you weren't always the nicest to him to begin with.
No, I wasn't the nicest, admittedly. I was frustrated he was on the project and I was up to my neck in work. Maybe I shouldn't have said some of the things that I said. But also, he should never have been on the project.
Okay, well,
But
regardless of whether he should have been on there or not, did you find any information on the flute, whether you deem it important or not?
no, there was nothing about it. It was just another flute that was there. I also didn't find anything on the harpsichord that got pulled out of that castle, but that doesn't mean that the harpsichord is some magical artifact that's just, I don't know, kills every werewolf when you play it.
Yes, but it's not the you know one of the focus points of this investigation. The boy who was investigating the flute and thought that something was going on with the flute just mysteriously dies because of this one a golden arrow, the same golden arrow that killed the other person that he was in contact with other than you and who knew about the flute.
Well,
So
that
there's
doesn't mean that I
nothing at
did
all.
it. Besides, do
Okay,
you think I have golden arrows? Do you think I spent time doing archery? No. You see these hands? And he holds up one of them, and the pinky finger literally, like, sags, held on only by skin. Do you think I can shoot an arrow?
no, no.
Exactly.
I want to do a persuasion roll to see if I can persuade him to give me some information that he might be keeping from me.
Sure, you can make a persuasion check.
Okay.
I'm going to say that because he's agitated, it's going to be at disadvantage. So you're going to roll twice and take the lowest number.
Okay. Okay. So one of them is a 24, 18 plus my 6. And the other one is 9. 3 plus 6.
Yeah, he's not gonna cooperate with you at this point. Look, it was probably somebody else. Just because someone's involved with one thing doesn't mean they're not involved in something else. Maybe he was just a random target. Maybe this was two random targets that happened to coincidentally be related to each other. That's a possibility.
Okay.
Because all I know is that he probably stole the flute and then died. I didn't want to frame him for anything. What good does that do?
It,
Sure, it might get him off the project, but what good does it do if that comes out? What's that going to do to my
well,
reputation?
it might cover your tracks to anything, that Tiberius might have found out that, or that might make you look bad. But I also want to do since he's agitated and, persuading him didn't really work out, I want to intimidate him.
All right, you can
See if
certainly
he really
try.
is a little bit of a pussy. Okay, I get a 10. 4 plus 6.
Okay, so yeah, not very intimidating.
Hmm.
Look, I don't know what you want from me aside from what do you want me to tell you that I was a jerk? Yeah, I was a jerk. Other than that, there's nothing here. He died. It was unfortunate. It should not have happened. I didn't do it.
Okay.
That's all
Well,
you really
I'll
need to know.
I'll leave you alone. But before I go, did you happen to find any books on the flute? Did you
No,
check anything out or know where
no,
they?
because it's not important. It wasn't noteworthy enough to get a book or even a
Okay.
footnote in a book. I've checked several. In fact, I can tell you it's not in any of these, and he motions to the books because I've read them. I'm just
Books on his
cross-referencing
desk.
another instrument entirely.
You're talking about the books on his desk,
The
right?
books on the
Not
desk,
the like,
yes.
yeah.
There's not a single mention of it in any of these.
And those books are mainly historical instrument books, right?
Yes, books of historical instruments, books of historical instrument usage, other things like that. And they're pretty
I
thick too.
can't.
They're like that thick.
I'm not really part of this conversation, but I can't help but want you guys to talk about um, the location where the harpsichord and the flute was found, though, that he himself brought up.
Well,
Um,
they came out of a castle, right?
mhm.
Yeah, they came out of a castle from the wastelands.
Oh,
Do we know? Okay. So you don't know anything on the flute. You don't know anything. You don't think that it's important, and that's fine. So, but where was the flute found again? What castle? Because we know we've been told that it was found in the wastelands in a castle, but is there a specific name to the castle where also the harpsichord was found?
It didn't have a specific name. It was more of a chateau than it was a castle, but those words are kind of used interchangeably. It was just some random vampire duchess's home. Like she lived there,
She
was
lived
big
or
enough for
lived?
her. Lived as in she is dead. She died.
Okay. And do you know her name?
I don't remember it off the top of my head.
It would seem pretty pivotal information for somebody who is researching on where these instruments came from.
She probably bought them from someone. This wasn't their origin. It was a destination, a stop on their journey across the valley. A lot of historical instruments end up through the hands of multiple owners, and some of them are not very noteworthy. I'm trying to
Okay.
find where the harpsichord was made, where the flute might have been made, that would tell me more than just where they stopped on one of possibly 30, 40, 50 stops they've all made.
And have you found any information on where the harpsichord was made or the
All I
flute?
know was not made in the wastelands, possibly in Hexenhold, as was the flute, probably made in Hexenhold. It has a rat motif on it, probably Hexenhold. And you would know that Hexenhold is where all the hags and witches hang out. That's like their
Yeah, and
geographic area
our
of the valley.
roommate was Hex Blood, correct?
Yes, so he definitely has family back in Hexenhold.
Hmm.
Who does?
Tiberius.
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 Okay. Okay. So at this point, I think I'm gonna leave Logan and head back to tell what I found out, which is nothing, and see what you found out with the books that you were looking through. So I walk over
Yeah.
to you.
Do I find anything in the books that am I even
Yeah,
able to read
so the
them?
Candelabra Society is basically only a footnote. It's recognized as the first society. It was mentioned that it was short-lived. It was disbanded very quickly. It was used as a cotillion to train up the new nobles of the valley, and it ended when Dahlia Ravensburg went insane and was locked inside the House of Blood. That's all the historical information that you get from that. Um, the book on moon gates and other gardening oddities mentions that a moon gate is a decorative element that is meant to line up with the moon so that at some point the moon passes during certain points of the year will pass through the sort of circle that they create. Moon gates are oftentimes perfect circles that people can actually walk through. They are made to be gates. They're oftentimes either gates, entrances to the garden, or just a decorative gate that sits over top of a bridge or something of that nature. Um, and it is meant to, at certain points of the year, line up with the rising or setting of the moon, just as a decorative element. It is rumored that because they do line up with the moon, you can use lunar magic or magic that can be activated by moonlight to do certain things with them, but most people get moon gates because they're pretty and you can have nice viewing areas or a centerpiece for a party or something of that nature. It's very rarely used for arcane purposes, but it can be.
Hmm.
And that's all you get on just moon gates in general.
Okay. Um, I I think that I want to go ask the librarian if where the books are that have any information on the Fae, maybe any historical information or lore.
All right. So yeah, Silas gives you a few. We don't really have many books on the Fae, seeing as how we rarely interact with them. Um, but we do have a few, and here are the most popular ones, and there will be others sort of around it. Um, and he gives you the Dewey Decimal System to one that is just called Fae, and the other one called A Field Guide to Fairies.
Okay.
Hmm.
So yeah, I want to go over and check out these books, see if there's any information in them
All
that
right, make me an investigation check with advantage to see if you can make your way through the library to find it.
I rolled a 5, which my investigation is +1, so 6.
But you have advantage, so roll again, and if that number's higher, we'll take that one instead.
Okay. I got 5 again. +1 is 6.
Oh dear. It's a little hard to find. You keep pacing around the library trying to find these, and they're not in the section that you think it's in. Like it should be in nature, right? Because they're nature beings, but it's not in nature. There's just stuff from the valley, and maybe they're in Arcana, and you go into Arcana, and there's nothing about them in Arcana aside from just references to them through like conjuring books. But other than that, you don't see these two specific books. Um,
Um, I call over my friend to see if he can help me because he's obviously better at looking for books than me. Do you think
so
that
yes.
you can? You think that you can help me find these books? I can't seem to
Oh,
figure out this GUI decimal system.
I mean, I figured it out because it's not Dewey, it's Devil. So it's kind of different. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go for this number first and then that number to see which shelf and then which row.
All right, so roll an investigation check with advantage.
Mm-hmm. Uh, so investigation. Here. Either, and that adds up to an 11 or 19.
All right, so yeah, you end up finding these books pretty easily. Um, you find your way over to it is interestingly in folklore, which is not where you were expecting these books to be. And you do pull out Fae and Field Guide to Fairies. They're about 5 books apart from one another. Um, and yeah, you look through them. Hags are Fae by nature. They are one of the only Fae that exist in the valley. And Fae also exist in the Feywild in greater numbers, but similar behaviors. They tend to not really quite trust each other. They tend to be catty and fight amongst each other, although admittedly more viciously in the Feywild. However, in the Feywild, they do have more access to magic because Fey are creatures made of magic, essentially. You do read about other Fey beings like Titania, and Queen Mab, the Queen of Air and Darkness, and the ruler of the Winter Court, and Titania, the ruler of the Summer Court, and the structure of the Fey, that there's the Summer Court and the Winter Court. They love interacting with mortals because they can get deals with them. They love making deals, or at least the ones from the summer court do. You read a few fairy tales of like different ones, and you do actually read one about the Pied Piper, and it's exactly as it
Mhm.
was described. The Pied Piper was a person that would offer to a fae that would offer to lead rats away from a town, and if you didn't pay them, he then took the children. Which interestingly, he is pegged as a summer court fae, which is weird given the nature of the winter court and that hags generally are part of the winter court, and they're also known for taking and eating children. Um, but the Pied Piper is part of the summer court. He's described as an elven figure that wears a lot of green and has a flute. But other than that, you don't gain any other information. Even the illustration of him doesn't show him carrying that particular flute, just a plain wooden flute.
Okay. That was a lot to take in. I'm sorry.
I'd
I
love to
need
dig
to.
in, but there wasn't really a lot of necessary information in there. I
I mean,
mean,
there was
we know that he's part of, they say he's part of the, what is it, the day court,
The summer
the
court.
summer.
the summer court, but he's more, his characteristics are more part of the moon court.
Winter.
Um, winter,
Summer,
I'm sorry.
winter. Summer,
Winter,
winter.
yeah. It was
Yeah.
Moongate and yeah, and so
Yes.
summer and winter, okay. Part of the winter court.
Mhm. But
So
also, there was the part about how hexes, no, sorry, yeah, hexenbloods of hags were kind of associated with Fae. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, they are the only fae that exist in the valley naturally. They are considered to be fae creatures, meaning
and
Tiberius was fae, not
Yeah.
undead or monstrous. He was fae.
Yeah, and as is the Pied Piper, or was.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes, both of them are fae.
Okay.
Okay. Let me think. Okay. I mean, we could see if there's any. Okay, so the school's on lockdown, so nobody's gonna give us any information. Do we know how long the lockdown's gonna last?
There was not a given time frame. It is probably until the staff deem they're either going to discuss it tomorrow
Or the
um,
assembly, right?
at the
Yeah.
assembly and reveal the end of it, or they
Mm-hmm.
will lift it when they feel the students are safe enough to return to a more normal social life.
Okay,
Can
so
I ask to sort of put in a little and our investigation into Pied Piper things? Would we? You mentioned him like in the same part of the summer court of sorts. Does that mean he's like sort of like a god? Would we know this? Like, is he immortal, or is he like
He
long
is
gone to
an
dead?
he is an archfey.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say reading the book, archfey are incredibly powerful. They're nearly godlike, but they are not gods themselves. Some of them do receive worship, but some of them don't. Typically, it's defined by they have a realm in the Feywild that they rule over. There are some archfey that are missing or have died, so it is possible. There is no information whether or not the Pied Piper is alive, missing, or dead. Just
Okay,
that he is an archfey that exists.
but it is an archfey is if none of that happened to them, they would be immortal.
Yes, it is
Okay,
possible to kill them, but you have to kill them. They won't die on their own.
right, and that's common knowledge of sorts.
I would say that's information that you would be able to easily find in the books that archfey have to be killed in order to die. They can kill each other, and people have killed them, but they have to be killed in order to die. Otherwise, yes, they are immortal.
is
Okay.
there any information in these books specifying how to kill the Fae or
It
the fruit?
more of implies that each Fae, while not exactly a unique specific circumstance, there are certain things that you won't be able to use against them, depending on what type of, creature they are. Some of them can't be killed by like aging them magically or magical assault. Some of them have to be killed with weapons. Some of them have to be killed with magic. Some of them can only be killed at certain times of the year. Um, it's stipulations like that. It's not, oh, there's only this specific weapon, but you can, kill them during the winter when their power wanes because they're part of the summer court, or you kill them when the moon is full and high, or you kill them with a wooden sword or something like that.
Okay. Okay, so we looked on books on the Fae. We found out maybe a little bit of information, but not much. We could also, a couple things we could do. We could try to check for golden arrows in the library because we've been focusing on the musical instruments, and the books didn't really say about like what kind of weapons that they use. So maybe the golden arrow is new information. Um, or if we want to leave the library, I know that who we were just with, the teacher said that they're gonna have a staff meeting.
Oh,
So
you wanna
we could like,
eavesdrop on the meeting?
yeah, we could maybe eavesdrop on the meeting and see if we can get any information from that. Maybe something they're not telling us.
Yeah, because I assume that we discussed what you talked to what's his face Logan about, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I didn't
I
get
because
anything
me
from him.
personally I heard it, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I went over and he didn't have any information. He was just being very not really forthcoming with anything that he had, other than letting me know that he wasn't at fault for Tiberius's disappearance or death, and he has no information.
And he has 2 feet, right?
Yes, he had, well, at this time.
That is okay. But I jot that down in my notebook.
Okay, so what should we do?
I think I mean I just got a handle of this Devil Dewey Decimal System, and I do think we should check out a book on golden weapons or something.
Okay,
But it's a really good idea to get a handle on these teachers before, like maybe they are having the meeting now or something. So we'd have to hurry and scope the situation out. So can I real quick go talk to Salas about golden arrows?
Sure. I've never heard
Hey
of a.
Silas, yeah, a gold ever like with leaves on it, and it's about like not th this long. Do you have a book about arrows this size made of
golden
gold?
arrow.
Um, that's a very specific ask. Gold is not something people typically make arrows out of.
What
Since
do they
you
make arrows
already
out of?
checked out, usually out of wood and
Right.
feathers and a stone of some kind for the tip, or metal is typically the,
Gold is metal, isn't it?
well, typically iron or steel or other such things that aren't incredibly soft and malleable. Um,
Right.
since you were looking at books on the Fae, perhaps there are other books around there that might give you information on. It seems like a very Fae thing to do, although I haven't really read much on them.
Right, right. Okay. But I know where the Fays are though. It's so, but would their weapons be same place?
Yes, most likely yes.
Okay.
See, I'm
So
going
I
to say
guess
at
we
this
go.
point you've succeeded on 2 investigation checks. I'm not going to make you make any more because you can just, oh, I know where these things are. I know how to use the system. You can navigate the library pretty easily. Um, so I'm not going to make you make another check.
Okay,
Um,
cool. So we go there and see if there's anything. Is there anything, Mr. Spencer, Dungeon Master?
so there does happen to be some things. Not really like a Weapons of the Fae book, but in a book about elves and elven culture, um, there is a reference to some elves who are part of the summer court using golden arrows. Um,
Hmm.
but that's really it.
Okay.
I
It's a
mean, so that was,
favorite of the Eladrin, specifically the summer Eladrin, to use golden weapons and specifically golden arrows, since archery is a favored um, weapon amongst the elves due to their relationship to their own god, and it gets into a bunch of theology that you're just like blah 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 skip. Um, but yes, they tend to use golden weapons.
And you said Elathrin. Is that another word for elves?
Eladrin. It is from your reading, it is a form of elf that lives in the Feywild. They are the closest to the original elves that were originally formless. They can change between certain seasons. Some of them stay the
Mhm.
same season forever. Some of them change seasons constantly. But those who remain summer Eladrin tend to use golden weapons in service of archfey like Oberon or Titania. Um,
Okay. So Goliath. I share we read this book together, I assume. Um, I think I'm gonna get a library card, and then we should go and head to the teachers' lounge. Or where do you think they'd meet up?
I mean,
Maybe
they have
Silas
to
would
have
know.
yeah, maybe Silas would know. It seems like he's very, in his work, so maybe we can just, maybe he can give something up without too much trouble. Okay, so
Um,
I want to go talk to Silas and see if maybe he knows where the teachers would be meeting.
okay, yeah, and maybe he'll be. I think we're pretty good buddies now, me and Silas. So is it
And
okay if
Silas
I
is
kind of?
Silas a student?
No, he is the librarian.
He's in the library. But I didn't know if
So
it was
he's
like a
like an
student
older
librarian.
mid
Or...
50s sort of werewolf. Um, so yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
oh, I was just what you're gonna
Oh, so we're gonna go ask him if he possibly knows where the teachers would be meeting.
And if I can get a library card and check out these books.
well, yes, here's the form right here, and he gives you the form and a pen to sign it,
Um,
and he pulls some materials together to put together your library card. Well, I wasn't called into this
oh,
meeting.
that's rude.
Um,
You're
well, it
part
is
of the faculty.
administration. Yes, but it is administration. And I am not an administrator. But they generally use the Ravensburg Theater for their meeting spots if it is too large for them to use Ismelda's office. Um, but you all have been in here for quite some time. There's a very good possibility they've already finished their meeting.
Okay, bye.
All right, thank
Uh,
you.
yeah, thank you.
Don't forget to
Uh,
turn in your form for your library card.
oh, right here. C yeah. Can I come pick it up tomorrow, maybe? Or is it okay? Like,
Sure.
yeah. Okay, so let's hurry. Goliath, this is our best shot. They're keeping something from us, these teachers. They must be.
Yeah, let's head to the Ravensburg Theater.
And of
Maybe
course
we
you
can
all
catch the
know,
end of it.
yes, you all know exactly where this is. Um, and you run there as fast as you can. And I'm going to make a roll. You get to the theater and you watch as a scarecrow with a pumpkin head um, and wearing a sort of beautiful dress with a big lace collar exits and the door shuts. And she looks at you. Oh, hello. How can I help you?
We're uh uh uh
We're kind of new
oh
here on campus. We've been around the theater a little bit. We just kind of know where it was, but we haven't really been around this area. Can you point us to the nearest bathroom? We're just trying to get back to our rooms, but I really need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, yes, it'll be down that hallway and to the left.
Alrighty, thank you.
And she turns
okay.
and walks away.
Yeah, as in away from the building or just down the hall or
Away from the door, down the hall.
okay.
And
So
could we hear anything coming out of the room when the door was closing?
No.
okay. So while you go to do you want to go to the bathroom kind of?
Is there any other entrances or exits to this theater? Or
There are
was
quite a
it
few. There's the
one?
you actually came to a side door because that's the closest door to you at the time, and if you could get there and get in or whatever, listen in, it would be closer. There's the huge double door main entrance that most people are kind of funneled through for plays specifically, but there's several doors on either side of those, and down to the front there's also stage access. You could go through like the backstage area through the theater department to get there. But there's tons of doors.
Okay. So I don't want to go to the bathroom, but I do want to try to sneak in one of the back doors. Maybe we can get backstage because I'm
All
assuming that the
right.
meeting is going to be on stage or, not necessarily. Maybe we can like just to see if anybody else is in there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I want to head to a back door,
yeah,
stage access.
Yep, so
I
you
agree.
run around to a door and you notice there is a door that has a little plaque on it that says stage access. You try the door, it is unlocked, and you open it and you manage to get in to the backstage area and kind of meander your way. It is very quiet and very dark as you
Hmm.
meander your way through the various props and dressing rooms and other things like that and make it onto the stage, and it's empty. The whole place is empty. It is at this point lit with security lights. The seats are empty, the rows are empty, the stage is empty.
Okay. But I do want to investigate to see if there's any one-legged footprints around.
Sure, give me an investigation check.
Mm, 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 mm. 10.
The stage seems pretty clean. Like the stage definitely, since it gets a lot of use from the theater department, and for school assemblies, the stage itself is kept pretty clean. Um, and so there are no footprints to be seen.
Okay. So
They cleaned up their tracks.
we missed the meeting,
Yeah,
which
we fucked up.
on our part was we should have
We did
eavesdropped
learn
before the
about
library.
golden weapons though.
Yeah, in the summer court,
Hmm.
and they're the ones who use it. And the Pied Piper was supposedly part of the summer court. But what does that help us? I think that maybe our only need from here is to um go try to find his friend, the popular girl that he was hanging out with.
Oh, the tiefling girl, B.
Uh, we haven't
Mhm.
talked to her yet, and other than Lou, that was the only other person that Tiberius had more of a connection to, and he might have talked to her about the flute, or she might know something about it.
Hmm.
But again, we don't know where her room is. But she is popular, so I'm sure that maybe some students might know.
Yeah.
But the only place that we know where students are is the library.
But also there's the lockdown.
Yeah, but we can just tell them that we forgot to pick up a book. We just forgot one book, so we can head back to the library
Okay.
unless you have another idea.
Um, no, not really. I mean, I could ask at my fencing team if they know her because like we're pretty hot stuff at school, right? But
Relatively, in certain circles.
I mean, obviously, fencing's pretty cool. We get to wear those white suits with the bulge and the headpiece. And what do you mean at some circles? Fencing's
Yeah,
cool, okay? Lesbians love it too. Like all
it's
demographics.
cool, but also other sports exist. Like we jokingly established that baseball exists in the previous episode.
Right.
So
Um, but if she's pretty popular, I wouldn't would I know? I like obviously I don't know her, but I would know that we don't have a tiefling girl on my team, I assume.
No, you do
Otherwise,
not have
I
a
would have.
well, you have tiefling girls on the fencing team, but none of them are named B Morta.
Okay.
Um,
And she's a
Uh,
popular freshman,
mhm.
like a popular senior. So yeah, I mean, my suggestion is going back to the library, just because that's where the students are, and that's the only place that we can be that isn't seen as, oh, that's weird, we're in a lockdown, because we've been in there
right,
before.
because the library is also kind of study hall. I
Yeah,
agree. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, let's go back. And then I can also get my library card for real. I felt kind of bad leaving Silas hanging.
yeah, I think we need to go check out those books anyways.
Right. Okay. We head
So
back.
we're heading back to the library.
Yep, you make your way back to the library, and from running all the way there and walking back, I'll say that it's probably maybe getting close to about 5 o'clock. So as you make it back into the library, there's only about two other students left. Logan has definitely left at this point in time. But there are two other students left studying in the library. And you watch as Silas looks up and nods again, and he picks up a little envelope and holds it out and says, "So you've come back for your library card?"
Of course, Silas. Books are so cool. They're filled with knowledge that I can't keep in my brain, so I keep it in the book instead. It's a really cool system.
It certainly is. And he hands you the little envelope that has the little library card in it.
Okay.
And before we
Um,
go look for more books, Silas, have you ever heard of a student named B Morta?
Um, I can't say that I have. Um, she probably doesn't visit the library very often then.
she's pretty
Okay.
hot stuff. Like she's a freshman and people already talking about her.
I don't really keep up with all of the students.
Really? Okay. You must like you're a nice guy. People talk to you, don't they, Salas?
Occasionally, but mostly about books.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
all right. Well, maybe we should go talk to the two students that are in the library and see if
Okay.
they
Yeah.
know anything. All
Right.
right. Thank you,
Thanks,
Silas.
Silas. See you around.
As you are walking away, you do see one of the students is making eye contact with you. And as you kind of look, she motions you over.
Mm-hmm.
You were asking about B. Morta?
Yeah.
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 You didn't hear? She
I
got
No,
mean,
into a fight
a
with
fight.
she beat up one of the werewolf rugby players. I think she's still in the nurse's office.
And that happened
aha.
today.
Yeah, that happened today. About like
Okay.
maybe 4 hours ago.
And what's your name?
Um, she is a I didn't think that far ahead.
It's okay. I have
She is an
an idea.
owlin girl named Hoot.
Who's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
And yeah,
What?
she's just like an owl person.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you hang out with B?
No, not really, but I know of her.
Do you
Um,
know why they were fighting?
from what I heard, the football player, oh, what was his name? It was something stupid and lame.
Oh, right. I heard about him. Like our buddy hates him too. Snarl, right?
I think that's it. He said
Snarl.
something bad about one of her friends, and she just lost it and beat him up.
I would too. I would too.
And
Wouldn't you?
and Is Snarl also in the nurse's office?
I mean, she
Do you know who won the
practically
fight?
ripped his nose off. So I would say so. Yeah,
That's right.
she beat him up pretty viciously. I'm surprised he's still conscious when they managed to drag him into the nurse's station.
I get why
Oh,
she's so popular.
okay. He was at a
Uh,
fight. Okay. Well,
oh,
think
thanks, dude.
maybe we should head to the nurse's office.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, dude. We go huddle amongst ourselves. So yeah, I think, I remember when we did the math of where the arrow came from with Lou, but he was heading in the direction towards the nurse's office, right?
Like, yeah, that's right.
Otherwise, the arrow wouldn't have been able to hit his right side. So he must have gone to see B or Snarl.
That's right.
Anyway, they must have. sh- sh- Let's go talk to B. She sounds cool. She should join the fencing team.
Yeah, let's go see if either her or Snarl can tell us any information at the nurse's office.
Yeah, so you make your way over to the nurse's office. The lights have already been turned on in this place as the sun is beginning to set. And it's a relatively small building with another turret like tower that you actually enter through. And you enter in, and there are a bunch of nurses all around this one particular bed as you kind of go in. There's not really anyone checking you in or anything like that. Um, but you see this big hulking werewolf dude in one of those old timey like photos from the 1800s Harvard sort of rugby sweaters that probably has the name Snarl like embroidered on the back, laying there with these nurses like dabbing at his face that is just covered in blood and scratch marks. He actually has like scratch marks, like shredding part of his sweater, like one of his sleeves is hanging off of it. It's just and these nurses have a bunch of bloody tissues. It's just blood everywhere as they're trying to clean him up. Um, And at the far end, you do see sitting at the end of the bed is a red tiefling um, in a plaid skirt and a sweater vest with just sitting staring into the middle distance. Very pretty, kind of has that sort of mean girl energy around her. But she's just sitting quietly alone at the other end of the nurse's station.
Okay. Well, while all the nurses are distracted by our friend over there, let's go talk to B.
Yeah, man,
What's the
I
B
agree.
name?
I agree.
So we kind of slyly, get past these nurses. We don't want to make too much of a commotion because they're probably, they're preoccupied, but they also know there's a lockdown. So,
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
gonna say it's pretty easy for you to just slide past these nurses and get to B. Um, and she just it takes her like half a second to notice that you're there, half a second longer than it really should, as she looks up and she just, hi,
All right.
hi,
Happy.
hi, B. Are you okay?
not really. I I feel like I've been losing it this whole week, coming back from spring break and finding one of your best friends to be dead, and then everything else that's going on. I just feel like I've been losing it.
You're not losing it. It's totally normal to react like that. Like I feel the same way. You probably don't know us that well, but it's your buddy is Tiberius, right? He used to be a roommate. He talked about you all the time.
Yeah.
Do you do puzzles too? You don't seem like the puzzle type.
No, I don't, but coming from where I come from, it was just nice to listen to someone who was able to have interests like that, talk openly about it. You know, everything where I came from was all facade and popularity contests, and he was just a guy who just wanted to be himself, and it was just so refreshing. And so I don't really like puzzles. I tried doing one once and I hated it. I hated every second of it, but just the fact that he was so enthusiastic about puzzles was just nice to be around, and
I know, yeah. I miss him too.
So, if you don't mind me asking, I know that you're like, we're both sad, or we're all sad over Tiberius's, sudden death. But what exactly did Snarl say to you that made you do that to him?
I don't remember how it started, but someone was talking to Snarl and I overheard a little bit of the conversation. They brought up Tiberius and his death, and didn't he didn't like that the school was all out of whack for, I think the phrase he used was an annoying freak that's not even that popular. And when I heard it, I just blacked out. And when I woke up, my friends were dragging me to the nurse's station, and I saw about maybe 30 feet ahead of me was Snarl on a stretcher covered in blood, and my hands were covered in blood, and everyone said that I attacked him.
You just
Yeah,
fully blacked out? Are you okay?
No, that's why I said I feel like I'm losing it. I just
Yeah. I mean, it's a natural reaction. Like I would have done that to him without blacking out. Don't feel bad about it. I mean, maybe a little bit, but don't not I
I mean, I
mean,
don't
he had it
usually
coming.
do anything like that. It just made me so angry because it felt like being back at home again and having just been back at home and having to live through all that again. I guess I just got so mad I blacked out and did whatever I did. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, when we're put under a lot of stress, stuff like that happens. I'm sorry that you went through that, though. It seems like you've been having a really rough time. Um, Sorry to ask this. I know that, there's a lot going on. But did Tiberius ever mention anything about a flute before, while you guys were talking before you left for vacation?
Yeah, he talked about it a lot. He was trying to figure out where it came from, and he just talked about it all the time. Um,
Do you know kind of the last thing that he said about it? It was possibly on, yeah, anything at all, before the last time that you
Yeah.
saw him?
I'm sorry we're asking all these questions. It's just like the teachers aren't taking this seriously. We're trying to find out what happened. I'm sure you understand. We wanna don't you wanna know
yeah,
too?
I do want to know. I'm trying to think. He mentioned something about the flute being too dangerous to be in the artifact lab. And he talked about moving it somewhere else.
Yeah.
But you don't know where. He didn't mention anywhere that he would maybe hide it, or is there any places that maybe he hung around, that might not necessarily be, where everybody hung around, something that was specific to him.
Well, he definitely hung out at the greenhouse a lot. I think he had a friend over there. I didn't meet this friend. Um, Usually it was the artifact lab, your place, I guess, the
Yeah.
greenhouse. And that was about it. He didn't really go many other places unless my friends and I dragged him places because, he was a good friend and we liked
Did,
hanging
did
out with him.
he showed it to you, the flute?
No, no, it was in the artifact lab as far as I'm aware, and those tend to stay in the artifact lab. But he talked about wanting to put it somewhere else. Uh,
Right. Did you,
Okay.
so you talked to him Thursday too, right?
yes, he actually asked me if he could borrow a trowel, and
A trowel.
yes,
That's odd.
I don't have one. It was a very weird. It was a very weird question. I thought he was trying to find one for his friend that worked at the greenhouse or something. But he was trying to find one. Um, I
Mhm. It's interesting. If he hung around the greenhouse a lot, and it wouldn't really seem like he needed a trial from you. But I rubbed B on the back and I pull us aside just to go over what we know really fast out of earshot of her and the nurses.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
just for a second. So we know that Tiberius potentially had the flu, when he died. He died on Thursday. And the only other person other than B who might know where the flute was is um is Lou.
Yeah.
He's dead. So I'm assuming that possibly he either went to move it or Lou had the flute in possession at some point before he died. Because why would it be, jumping around? So maybe he had the flute or Tiberius had the flute and then he died and Lou was going to try to move the flute. He didn't want to be seen like he was a part of it. But they are also working in the greenhouse, so the flute might be, back at the greenhouses, buried in the ground somewhere.
And we can go while everyone is locked in tonight, maybe.
Everybody's locked down.
Like no one would be hanging out the greenhouse at this time. I wouldn't have to go yelling and hugging people.
Yeah, and we already have a back window broken into, so if anything, we can't get through the door. We can, get through that.
Yep.
Right.
Do you think we
Because
should ask B if she wants to help us? I think it'd be good for her to, and like we all hands on deck, right?
well, let's see. It doesn't really seem like she's mentally fit to even be walking around campus, apparently.
But I feel bad leaving her alone, you know? And she's kind of cool.
Well, yeah, let's ask her, see how she
Okay.
feels.
Yeah. We go back. Hey B, um, it seems a bit weird, but like the things you just told us really big help, really great help. And we think we can figure out what happened to Tiberius and make sure that he gets that we get to revenge and the people who actually killed him, other than just the people who talk shit about him, such as Snarl, right? And sorry if it's a bit much, but like I feel bad leaving you alone, you know? Do you want to head out with us?
no, I think I'm gonna stay here. I think it's better if I stay here.
Sure.
Okay, that's
Can I
fine.
try to persuade her?
You can try. Um, if you really want to, you can try.
I do. I do feel it would be both good for us to have a buddy along, but also just I actually don't think she should be alone. And she probably feels the same way we do. Um, Let me do it here. It's a 5.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like she's gonna want to go anywhere. Um, yeah,
Okay, if
I just think it's better if I stay here. I don't want to black out again. I don't want to.
we'll be there if you ever do. But yeah, just it's fine. Just if you change your mind, then we're and I lean in real close and whisper like greenhouse midnight. Okay?
Oh, okay,
If you change your mind,
okay.
totally open, totally up to you. Um, yeah. So Goliath, should we head
Yeah, I
back?
mean, yeah, we should head back. The only thing other that we could do here is talk to Snarl, but it doesn't really seem like he's, either in the talking mood, and he's also surrounded by nurses. So anything that we did have, he probably wouldn't tell us much.
I agree. I agree, and I don't want to talk to that guy. Seems like an
Yeah.
asshole.
So I think our next move would be to head to the greenhouse, back to the greenhouse, to see if, you know, maybe Lou left anything unresolved before he died.
Right. Okay. Um, I agree. Um,
So we're gonna head
yeah.
back to the greenhouse.
However, me as a person, a game, can I have like a 10 minutes break before we
Yeah, I was about to recommend like let me go to the bathroom
Sure.
and
Yep, we can take
yeah.
a little break and we will be back after this.